Hey guys, well, welcome back to Tam Talks. I'm Tammy Hotson-Pillar, and I'm so excited to have you. If you're watching us on YouTube, thanks for joining us. And for those of you listening to us on our Charisma podcast, welcome. Well, you guys, as you know, we are in a series this week called God in the Front Lines. And we're talking about Ukraine. We're talking about the war. We're talking about people. We're talking about a heart for ministry. And you know, I just like to get really real and honest in our podcast. I want to have discussions with you, maybe that you're having with your neighbors or your friends, and maybe you're not. Maybe this is a dialogue that you need to have. The truth is, this war has been going on for, wait, how long, Ward? I mean, how many months?
Yeah.
Months.
4, 5, 6 months.
Right? And I know when it first broke out, I mean, we thought, hey, this may be a few weeks. Hopefully, you know, Russia and Ukraine can come to some agreement, but this has been months. And I want to talk to you a little bit about, yes, God in the front lines, and God sends us to the front lines. God is in the front lines often by proxy of his people. I like that. That's pretty good. You know, I always tell you, if you have a good sentence, it probably came from God, right?
Yes.
But first, let me introduce my guest today. Ward Smith is a dear friend. He attends here at Influence Church, and thank you. You're part of our security team, and you keep us safe. But former mayor of Placentia, a police officer, you have been in the front lines for safety most of your life.
Yeah.
And I know being a part of Influence Church with us, you've been here every week, and I just want to publicly thank you for protecting us. And a crazy world. I mean, this isn't our topic today, but you know, churches are under attack.
Absolutely.
Here in America, and we've seen it here even in California. And so every week, unfortunately, but fortunately, you have a team of men and women, some undercover. I mean, who would ever think that at the church we'd have to have so much security protecting us? But that's just a sidebar for where we are today in America.
Day and age.
And so thank you for that. But you took a team. You took a team to the Ukraine. This is our second time here at Influence Church going, but you took a group of men just a few weeks ago. And I wanted to talk to you, Ward, just about, gosh, what did you see? What was it like? And I know that, you know, you guys went, you told us we couldn't have any women go yet. I'm hoping, I know Pastor Phil has a real heart to go back and do a crusade, actually, and maybe even take, you know, your daughter, Kim Walker-Smith.
Oh, yes.
You know, okay,
Yes.
that's a joke, okay, all the people over there, because we love Kim Walker-Smith here at our church, the singer, songwriter, and you're Ward Smith, and they thought maybe you were her father, but, you know, that's not the case. But we do want to go back again and do a crusade there. But for now, you know, months into war, what did you see? What happened? You guys got there, you landed, a group of people came and met you.
Yes.
You actually went to Romania first, I believe.
That's true.
So talk me through a little bit of what your experience was.
Yeah, absolutely. First and foremost, it was a phenomenal group to go and work with. And one of our team members, who I really count as the tip of the spear to us, Regan, had been on the first trip there. So having experienced really kind of what the mission was already, what was going to take place, what was needed, what were those critical junctures and connections that needed to take place, came back and got us all together, and the team just fell right into place first and foremost. I mean, it was not even really an ask. It was a discussion about the next trip, and all of us just kind of came together and did that. Huge thanks to the church congregation, to the people outside of the church that were part of it, because it was truly not a one group effort. It was a partnership, a teamwork, everything came together. Influence played a significant major role in it. We know that Regan works with an organization called Kid Care International, and they were a huge contributor to this. But the coordination of something like this is not an easy process, and comes together, and it takes time and it takes effort of many to do that. But we did. We left here on Saturday, May 28th, flew out of LAX to Frankfurt, Germany, and then did a shorter flight from Frankfurt, Germany over to Cluj, Romania, where we met a couple of our team members that were our connects there, a gentleman named Daniel and his son Roar, who were going to be kind of our transport and drivers for the next week. And it was really nice to meet them. And we did about a 3-hour drive from Cluj to a small village called Baha Mare. And it's right on the border of Romania and Ukraine. And that was going to be our jump-off point into Ukraine. We've all seen that there are different points into Ukraine. We know that a lot of refugees left the country, went to Poland. We know that a number of them have come into Romania, and this was our juncture to enter into Ukraine and do that. It had been a long flight, close to probably 18 hours all told, getting stuff done and getting settled. But we knew that there was a lot to be accomplished in that first week. And we knew that there were materials coming, and we're going to even come and arrive after our departure from there, which we're very grateful and thankful for all that's going on there now. As it worked out, the next day we jumped off. We first and foremost, while we were bringing a large quantity of provided and supplied medical equipment, medical supplies, that we were looking to take directly to that farthest most point that would put us closest to the front lines of the actual fighting that's taking place, and those communities that are closest to the front lines that are impacted by that. But along with that, we were able to saddle up, and we went and we purchased enough food to fill 2 vans. These folks needed the basics, the staples. And we're talking about when we were able to meet with some people, help assemble some food bags to distribute to people. We're talking about what we would see as just our regular grocery store bag. So here you are with this plastic bag that's filled up, and that's expected to perhaps feed a family of 4 for 2 weeks. You know, consisting of salt, rice, sugar, flour, pasta, canned meats, you know, sustainable items that wouldn't spoil, things along those lines.
You know, let me just jump in here, because if you didn't hear our first podcast in this series, I spoke to Jen, who runs our missions department here, and I talked about how there's this pull in us here in America, honestly, because we're in a recession.
Yes.
And in our garages, we have extra toilet paper and beans and rice, and we don't know where we're going, and yet, in comparison, are you kidding me? I mean, you may go to Target and find your shelves barely full, but you can't even get in Romania, or not Romania, but in Ukraine, this bag. I mean, what did that do to you? Let me just ask you that. When you went there and you saw these worn, torn buildings, and you know they had been bombed, and some of these schools and these shelters and theaters and apartment complexes that we know people have died in, and all they want is the bare necessities of food. They don't have clothing. What did that do to you?
Absolutely. It's far more impactful than you would really imagine if you've never been exposed to circumstances like that. If you've never worked in a missions field, if you've never been in the military, in a war-torn area or something like that, you look at this, and what we were experiencing and seeing were people who were, if you think about it, immediately displaced from where they live. You know,
in moments.
Yeah, it's not like, hey, this is coming and you need to gather your stuff together and go. It's like, it is here and you need to go now. And that place that you've called home may or may not be here. And that was the experience that we saw as we went through our different stops up to Lviv, to Kiev, to Chernihiv. And Chernihiv was probably the most impacted area we saw, that was kind of north of Kiev and put us the closest we got to the Russian border, about 24, 25 miles from the Russian border. And to go there, and that's where we connected with not only their local government, what we would refer to perhaps as our mayor pro tems and stuff here, because I'm in local government. Their deputy mayor was there. The director of their children's hospital, the administrator of the children's hospital was there, which had been bombed. Who finds some military value in bombing, you know, a children's hospital? Chernihiv is a city of 7 hospitals, 2 completely destroyed, 5 also severely damaged, that they're barely operational, and the needs that they have to tend to it. In that event alone, that bombing alone, killed 2 doctors, 27 children, and injured some 700 people right there in what would have been kind of a medical hub area. You know, kind of a little footprint there. And the experiences of then going on a tour of that community and seeing what? Oh yeah, not, you know, not a plant that's potentially developing, assistance to the Ukrainian military forces. No, a hotel, a large hotel. Like you said, apartment buildings. Dropped a 500-pound bomb next to an apartment building. It looked like the Murrah building, in Kansas. It's these people, you go through neighborhoods, just rubble, just destroyed. And you talk about where are they at, what do they need, how are they trying to regain their lives. One of the most impactful things for this trip to us was when we left Romania, we took a young mother, her 7-year-old daughter, and her little over 1-year-old daughter with us. And we spent our first 2 days with them, going with us, because we were taking them home to Kiev. So think about the fact that all the men up to the age of 65 are subscripted into the military when this war started.
Really?
They didn't have a choice. You have to take some part. I don't think they're expecting all the 65-year-olds, such as myself or someone close to it, to go to the front line and fight, but they have to have some role in it. So obviously in this family, mother and daughters left and were able to flee and get out of, they were quickly in Kiev, but remember, Kiev was a very targeted area early on in this process, and they went to Romania, and Dad went and fought. And Dad was coming back and was home, and we were going to take them with us to reunite them. And this thought of that reuniting, that coming back together, what was that going to look like? And then to witness that and to see that, just the emotion tied to that. And, the looks on the children's face, they hadn't seen their father in months, and how did that look? Look at the dad, the dad's expression of like, oh my gosh, here it is, my family, the emotion just overbounds you.
Well, and where this is so real because, I don't want to get started on my passion for our country and the love of our country and what we have, but we've really taken advantage of the freedoms that we have here in America. And but for the grace of God, this could be our country. We could be at war with another country. We have a democracy here so far at this time. Who knows where we're going to be in the next few years. But I take that serious because you go, well, how come we haven't been affected like that in America? And so I just want to do a shout out. First of all, thank God for America.
Yes,
I am so grateful. If you ever have traveled outside of America, the freedoms that we have here, the protection that we have here, the resources and the blessings from God that we have here. I've traveled around the world, and I've been so blessed to be a part of so many mission endeavors around the world. So I am a champion, and I want to steward well, because when we talk about God on the front lines, to whom much is given, much is required.
Yes.
And that was my word right now for you. To whom much is given, much is required. And we have been given so much in America.
Yes.
And we are required to be the front lines. So whether it is men like yourself who have gone and are bringing families back together and bringing food and medical supplies, or you financially can get behind something like this and say, I can write a check, I can gather food, and today I think I just mentioned right before we sat down here, I'm working with our staff because I literally have bins in my car of clothing that we're getting ready to send today. I mean, we have another shipment going, I think our third shipment. So let me just talk a little bit about, as we conclude here, what would you say to someone listening right now or watching us, to whom much is given, much is required, much has been given to you? Yes. Everyone in America. Yes. My daughter just mentioned in the podcast prior to this that poverty, and even here in Anaheim, which is Section 8 housing, they are 98% more blessed than really those around the world. I mean, we don't understand poverty, and I don't want to put anyone, make anyone feel like I'm making you feel bad for what little you do have, but we do have so much here. So front lines, how do we take what we have and be a blessing to those around the world? What would you say?
Well, you touched on it, Tammy, in the sense that, whatever it is that you believe that you can offer up, contribute, or give, either in materials and resources or financially, are important. And I know that here, what struck me was the fact that you always question, how does that work? If I give, does it really go? Does it get caught up in administrative costs or whatever that looks like?
Right.
I can tell you that firsthand, the materials, the supplies, whether it was the financial offsetting to get us the stuff we needed to get that there, or whether it was the delivery of materials here. We watched that very firsthand go straight to the hands of the people who needed it. That was great things for me. I love that because I can honestly now tell people, hey, when you give, it goes right to where it's needed most. Absolutely, 100%.
Yeah.
And the other thing I would add is we all come from different cultures, different backgrounds, different experiences. Americans in general, very proud and very, very strong-willed individuals in a lot of ways, how they see things and stuff like that. I will tell you that the people of Ukraine, men, women, children, have a deep resolve and love of their homeland and their country, and that was impressive. They're in there, and they're gonna hold together, and they're gonna fight the fight. And I just feel blessed to have had the opportunity to go on behalf of the church and Kid Cares Group and all of the congregate and the people that were behind it, because it wasn't 4 of us going, it was 4 people at the little end of this point with all of these resources and people behind us, and that's where the blessings came to us.
So you can be on the front lines, and
Yeah,
you can make a
absolutely.
difference. And so I did watch you guys, everything that came in, the lobby of the church here, you guys were packing up the day before and carrying firsthand. So it does go. We have told you guys to really be responsible. Ask God what he wants you to do. Ask him how he wants you to give. The thing I just want to end with right here again is, I love what you just said, Ward. These are people that love their country and they're defending their country. They are fighting. None of us thought that little Ukraine would be able to stand against the big Goliath of Russia.
Man,
and wherever
that's
you
it.
are politically, I'm not here to say you're pro Ukraine or pro Russia. That's not my point. But my point is, these are people at war, and we have to do something for them. And love your country, defend your country, believe in your country, pray for your country. But for the grace of God, that could be America. So you guys, thanks so much for joining us. I appreciate you being a part of this. Share this podcast with somebody. And if you wouldn't mind, would you subscribe and just comment below? I'd love to hear on YouTube what you have to say. And for those of you listening to us on the Charisma Podcast, we would love to hear from you. You can join me on any of my social media feeds. We appreciate you guys. And stay tuned. We have one more podcast in this series of Fighting on the Front Lines. You're going to meet someone actually from Romania and someone who is a big part of our trip to the Ukraine. Have a great day. God bless.